Hey y'all, welcome to Gadfly, the podcast about third parties, fringe candidates, and generally weird American electoral history. I'm Dusty Wilson.
I'm Una O'Leary.
And man, we are back again for part 2 on Eugene Victor Debs.
Debs.
Yeah, so far, a very kind and good person.
Could this be the multi-episode season where it's just puppies and rainbows?
I want it to be so bad.
Great that it is, because it's a
Good.
Valentine's Day, Ash Wednesday miracle.
It might as well be. You know, for Potchki week, I can't think of anything better.
Yay.
Una, did you get any Potchkis?
I did get punchkis.
Yeah.
I want to say punchkis, but then my Polish partner will shudder.
No, that's fair. That's fair. It's, all right. For those of you who don't know, Ponchki?
Ponchki is plural. Ponchuk is singular, is
okay.
what I've learned. If you want to be real obnoxious in Chicago.
Oh, absolutely. They are Polish jelly donuts that are made specifically, or at least here in Chicago, they become a big thing during Mardi Gras week.
Yes. Yeah. They're the Polish answer to Mardi Gras festivities, or your Episcopalian pancake dinner.
Right. They're fucking delicious. Una, do you have a favorite?
Rose Hips is really good. I also love a cream punchki.
Where do you get yours from?
Here's the thing. Growing up in Michigan, you could just go to a quality dairy and grab punchki, patski,
Patchki.
And here it's like, Black Club Chicago gives me a rundown of all the Polish bakeries, where to get Ponchkis. Benison's in Evanston is a great one. Shout out to them. But it's like, by the time I get my shit together, it's the day before. It's like lead up to Fat Tuesday Monday.
Like, oh fuck no.
And everyone's sold out. And it's also like, because of course all of the Polish neighborhoods are either like the original ones around Milwaukee Ave in Wicker Park, or like kind of like friggin' out in the burbs. Right, and so it's like, hey, person without a car, how about you take 2.5 hours to go really west to the outskirts of the city?
Oh yeah.
To this bakery, which, to be fair, no one will speak English, and so you'll probably get the best punchki of your life.
Oh yeah.
But also they're already sold out.
Yeah, they've already taken pre-orders and only in Polish.
Yes.
Oh man. Yeah, I get mine from Benison's. They're the closest to where I am, and they're up by where I do physical therapy, so that's just an easy little hop, skip, and jump.
And you're like, I deserve a treat.
Exactly. I deserve 4 treats.
Yes.
Love a lemon curd. Raspberry is a nice one. Blueberry is probably the one that I'm like the biggest ride or die for.
So my partner grabbed punchki from Lauer on Bryn Mawr. PHLOUR. They had punchki, and he grabbed a cream of blueberry, an apple, and something else, and it was to die for.
So
for our non-Chicago listeners, I apologize, but also
no, you can fuck off. You can get punchki in other cities. I know there's a place in Boston you can get it. You just gotta look. You gotta find the Polish neighborhoods.
Yeah, Hamtramck if you're in the Detroit metro area.
Good to know that's how it's pronounced.
Yes.
I think I called it Hamtramck for a while. Hamtramck. I don't know. I really fucked it up for a bit. But yeah, it's a great Chicago tradition that every Catholic major holiday week you get a patchki and argue with your coworkers on how it's pronounced.
Yes, it's so fun. But yeah, I'm also really loving the stacked Valentine's Day Ash Wednesday as someone whose sexuality was extra confused thanks to Catholic guilt.
Yep.
This is truly my holiday.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Was St. Valentine's burned or was he boiled? I can't remember.
Oh, I thought maybe
he got crucified. I don't know. I know I'm stalling the episode by asking this, but also my dog is barking, so I'm gonna look this up.
I thought he was stabbed and maybe beheaded.
I mean, that tracks. How was he? All right, St. Valentine. He was beheaded on February 14th, 270. Man, why did I think he was boiled?
I mean, it's 50% chance.
Yeah, we boiled him in chocolate, so you know how it is.
In the spirit of Die Hard being a Christmas movie, Some Like It Hot is an excellent Valentine's Day movie because it kicks off with the inciting incident is essentially the St. Valentine's Day massacre
Oh
in
God.
1930s Chicago. And that's why the two musicians have to skip town as women,
Oh my
because they're
God.
essentially in witness protection, but without
My
the protection of
God.
the government. Yeah.
I've never
Yeah.
connected that. That's so
Yeah.
perfect. Oh my God. Anyway, we're a politics podcast.
Oh my God, we're a politics cop.
I mean, we should just be a donut podcast at this rate. But yeah,
Just humans make it happen.
it'd be told. Oh my God, we could just
I
talk about
love
a different
donuts
flavor of
so
potchki
much.
each week.
Mm.
Oh man, talk
I
about how
don't.
king cake is the most dangerous treat, because the one time I had it, I bit right into that plastic baby Jesus.
Oh, you won? Because aren't you
Yeah, I
supposed
guess
to
I did.
find
I
the
guess I
baby?
won a baby.
Yeah.
Anyway, so part two on Mr. Eugene Victor Debs. Last time we talked about him, we talked about a kid who was raised by a financially inept father who really was actually excellent at home tutoring, especially with like classic literature and language and forestry and things like that.
Yeah.
And a mom who really should have been the business mind behind the family. And Eugene learning such amazing things as how to steal from your family's bakery to give to other people.
Yeah. How to distribute the wealth.
Yeah, he was like the perfect slacker in the 1800s. He eventually moved on to being a fireman for the railroad, which means he threw coal into the train. I actually found out a little more about that job, and that it was more than just shoveling coal into an oven. You had to guess how much coal you needed to be able to sparse it out for the entire trip, so you weren't just shoveling nonstop. Because if you did that, the boiler could explode. But also, you had to keep track of the amount of water that was in the boiler, because if that got too low, it would explode. And you had to even out the coal when it was in the boiler.
Oh my God.
It's a whole ass job that required a lot of mental math and estimation.
So mental agility on top of the physical agility
Yeah.
of tossing said coal
Yeah,
back and
between
forth.
boiling heat, freezing wind, boiling heat, freezing wind. It's just a job that really deserves a lot of fucking pay and got very little pay.
Yes. And for teenagers too. It's like,
Yeah,
this
right.
is a great first job.
Yeah, he was 16 when he started that job. But yeah, at the age of 19, ends up retiring because his mom doesn't want him to die. And he agrees after learning that one of his friends fell under a train and died. And then joins a union for such a cause, the Brotherhood of Locomotive Firemen.
Woo woo, choo choo.
He also becomes the city clerk of Terre Haute, Indiana, and does that job for a couple of years.
Because he can still go home.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because mom wants him to stay home, and eventually he might run for Congress. But we'll see. We'll see where things go. And then he finally is the head of the Brotherhood of Locomotive Firemen. Well, he's the secretary treasurer, but they bring him onto the job entirely to save the union, because the union's flat broke. Not only was the last guy who was treasurer a constant drunk, but he was also embezzling repeatedly from the organization as well.
No.
So that's why they were so broke. And within like a year, Eugene saves them from bankruptcy, massively increases membership, and makes them one of the more powerful brotherhoods within the locomotive union world. So the world was Gene's oyster, and he's 26 at the time, to mind you. And, amongst friends, he was already starting to ponder if he should put the presidency of the United States on his lifetime bucket list. I think now is as good a time as any to say that Eugene loves to go out and drink. And so I'm putting this in the pile of the man likes to talk shit when he's drunk.
Got it.
Like we've all
been 26.
Right. We've all promised future jobs to people while we're drunk and in college.
I love a booze hound mama's boy. I love the duality.
Well, the funniest thing about it is Ray Ginger, who wrote the book The Bending Cross, who I'm basing a lot of this off of, makes the point that Eugene he wasn't an alcoholic. He didn't need alcohol to thrive. What he needed was hanging out with people.
Oh.
Since all the people who worked for the railroad liked going out and drinking, he just went along because that was how he got to hang out with people who used to work on the railroad.
That's so cute.
Yeah. So, but there was one thing missing from the things to do, because he's 26 years old. He's an old man, Una. He needs to get married.
Yeah, he does.
And according to Ray Ginger, Eugene was always very kind to the ladies, but he never made a move to date anyone, ever. He would go on bar crawls with his friends, but dances and parties were not his scene, and you would never see him at either of those. He never learned how to dance in his entire life.
Well, he was too busy two-stepping the
doing
The
the Cole
fire,
twist.
yeah.
And so yeah, so he's never asked anyone out on a date, never gone on a date, which it's the 19th century and dating's very different then.
Sure.
But
Yes.
it's just something he's never done. But supposedly, nearly every woman in town had given up on the idea of marrying him, despite the fact that he's, a relatively successful local guy. He's working in the government. One day he's going to be a congressman. He's important within this union. He's going to be a very fine match for someone. But everyone who's trying to flirt with him just gets, him being like, thanks, I guess. Okay, bye. But there is one woman who decides that she's not going to accept that. And that is the old crone of 28, Kate Metzel.
Yes, Kate.
So Kate was born a year after Eugene in Louisville, Kentucky. She had been raised by a single mom after her father died shortly after she was born. The family struggled until her mom remarried, and the family moved to Terre Haute. Once there, her stepfather started a drugstore that became the most successful drugstore in town. Her stepfather also raised her in an ultra-patriarchal household that forced her to do chores late into the night.
Ugh.
An example that Ray Ginger gave is that her stepfather sent all of her brothers to college in Europe and made her stay up late doing their laundry and chores that they would have done, and was just constantly doing housework.
Damn, this is some Cinderella shit.
Mm-hmm. So Kate, it was kind of noted that Kate wasn't exactly someone who made a lot of friends, but one of the friends that she did make was Eugene's older sister, Marie. And so Kate came over often and seemed to make kind of a bit of a habit of just staying late enough that it was, oh, it's dark. It's too dangerous to go home. Eugene, maybe you should walk me home.
Yes.
That old chestnut. And so literally every time she came over, she stayed until dark and forced Eugene to walk her back home. And that's kind of where they ended up becoming really good friends, because Eugene loved talking about his work. He loved talking about labor and how workers deserve better. And, Kate didn't have a lot of knowledge behind that, but she loved the fact that he was wanting to talk to her about it, and it gave her an opportunity to learn about something outside of darning socks and folding her asshole dad's pants.
Yep. And in another lifetime, she may have also realized, like, hey, the shit I do is labor, and I too deserve rights.
Correct. Now, it should be noted that the two were very, very different personality-wise. A lot of the townsfolk referred to Kate as standoffish and self-centered and far too ambitious. Nowadays, we would probably call her, an introvert. She just, there were things she wanted, and her ambition is really kind of interesting because a lot of people just assumed she was going after Eugene because he was going to be this prime catch of a man, and they're like, oh, this is your way out to the rich world. And she, there are some indications that she wanted the finer things in life, but
also, it's like there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, we're speaking from 2024. It's like
in 2024, Kate Metzel would have been a star on TikTok. She would have been just, Aubrey Plazaing her way through why parents just don't understand. She would have been great. But, while Eugene was very talkative and very extroverted, it really just worked out between them just because she was, patient, and she loved to listen. And it just worked out really, really well between the two.
Oh.
By 1884, there was a major problem, though. Eugene was broke. Between his tenure at city clerk and his role in Brotherhood, over 4 years, Eugene had made about $12,000, or $375,000 in today's money.
Damn.
And it's all gone.
Where's it gone, Dusty?
To literally anyone who needs help.
Oh.
So part of the thing is, like, working for the Brotherhood, he's going and meeting like railway people and, people who are being underpaid. And if he meets someone who's like, yeah, we're not being paid well, and I'm, trying to figure out how to feed my family, Eugene will be like, okay, here's money.
Yeah.
Your problem's not fixed, but I hope this helps.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was one example where he met someone who was wanting to get a promotion as a fireman, but they weren't going to hire him unless he got a better watch. And so Eugene just took off his watch and gave it to this guy.
Oh.
It was kind of noted that anytime he went on a cross-country trip, he would leave with a full suitcase of like multiple changes of clothes, and he would come back with nothing except the clothes on his back, just because he's given it away to anyone and everyone. He's giving this money to anyone who wants to start a union. It doesn't even have to be a fireman or a railway union. If you're like wanting to start a grocery union, he's giving you money for that.
Love it.
Yeah, it's candy for him. He is stealing his own money to give to other people.
No one can tell him otherwise.
And so, so this idea that you're going to be marrying into a guy who's going to give you extreme wealth, funny twist to that.
Yeah.
So the big issue, though, is that after 4 years, he could no longer run for city clerk. It had a maximum of 2 terms, so he can't go back to that job. So essentially, his pay is now being cut in half overnight, just working for the Brotherhood. So Eugene did as he always did, and just filled his time with more Brotherhood work for half the pay.
But probably still doling out just as much.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, just as much as he has, he will give
Yeah.
to people. Yeah.
Yes.
So he literally hops trains from coast to coast trying to set up union lodges and trying to get any ride he had for free, either as gratitude from rail workers or just hopping freight trains and hoping he doesn't get caught by railway security.
Incredible.
While Gene had some successes, the cross-country work was mostly just disappointments that ended in eating what he could find and sleeping on floors. At year's end, he returned to Terre Haute, and while his family offered comfort, it was Kate Metzel who soothed his mind. So, like we said, she wasn't really bubbly or outgoing, but she was really patient and very sympathetic to what Gene had gone through, which is exactly what he needed after such a tough year. Now, Ray Ginger also has his own theory, which I kind of want to talk about. The more I've read this theory, the more I kind of don't agree with it. But so his theory is that Eugene knew that with his union work, he's going to be away for business for weeks, if not months at a time. And if he is going to get married, he needs to get married to someone who's independent enough to be okay with him being gone for that long and still lead their lives.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And his theory is that, Kate is one of the few women he ever met who would be capable of doing. So, yeah, what do you think as a theory?
I mean, I guess because he came back from this long journey and she was still there and like listening and helpful, I guess that's the evidence that she'd be chill with like this reoccurring.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't know enough about her, frankly. Like, aside from just like what I believe you correctly identified as being an introvert.
Right, right. I mean, we'll get into how that theory is kind of disproven by his own future writing, but his theory is that's why Eugene proposed to Kate. And by the next year, they got married.
Oh.
And contrary to the statement of Ginger at the beginning of his book, the marriage would be the only time Eugene purposely entered a church and stayed for more than a few minutes. I was so mad to read that, and that was the moment I'm like, Ray Ginger, I don't think you edited your book. And this is the moment that I got very frustrated with this as a primary source. Because you can't say Eugene Debs went into a church once and then never did again, and then like 2 chapters later being like, they had an Episcopalian wedding, and it's like, that is a church, sir.
Yeah, they didn't get married at City Hall.
No, they did not. Kate expected a church wedding. God damn it. Anyway, so, following the wedding, the pair went on a 2-week honeymoon on the East Coast. The myth goes, when Eugene and Kate got home, he asked her, hey, did you have fun on our honeymoon? And she said, it was the most fun I've ever had in my life. To which he said, good, because now we're broke. He spent $2,000 on a honeymoon.
Holy cow.
Yeah. It's if there's anything he inherited from his dad, it's being shit with money.
Oh wow. Yeah, man. Nature versus nurture.
Right. It's it's really frustrating reading that because I recognize my own shitty issues with money when I was that age, and it's just like, Eugene, stop it, man. Fucking set $20 aside. $20 then is like $80,000.
Right.
Aside, man.
Just put it in a shoe. Forget about the shoe.
You're gonna want to give it to a train conductor or like, I don't know, a con man on the street.
It's like, how good is Kate's math? Can she be in charge of the finances the way that your mom clearly was?
Yeah. If Kate gets mad at me, how quietly angry is she gonna be? Let's find out after marriage. So while this whole engagement and marriage thing was going on, Eugene was also running for state representative in Indiana. And this is usually something that I would cover a lot of information on, but there's nothing out there on how the campaign went. Essentially, the local Democrats really, really liked Eugene. He's had a lot of esteem from the people of Terre Haute with his job that he did for city clerk, so he was kind of a shoe-in for state rep if he wanted to run. And on January 8th, 1885, Eugene Debs became a state representative and immediately submitted a bill that he had written prior to getting the job.
I love it.
And the bill would require railroad companies to pay what we would call today workman's compensation.
Hell yeah. Oh, he came ready.
What makes this more radical is that the first ever federal workers' compensation program had only just been approved in Prussia by Otto von Bismarck. America wouldn't pass their own version until New York in 1898. And it wouldn't be federally recognized in every state having some version of workman's comp until 1949.
Damn.
So he was way ahead of the time. It didn't pass, by the way, but you know,
Eh.
good on him.
Also, like, okay, Otto von Bismarck.
Right? It's
All right.
you made some mistakes later in life that I don't like, but good for Prussia. It's a good thing.
Yeah, yeah.
So Gene ends up getting named to the state legislature railway committee, which seems like a layup. And this helped him push his bill through the state house. But once it got to the Senate, they cut everything out of it that would make workman's comp even enforceable. So Eugene withdrew it from consideration. This became a bit of a theme for Eugene. When he encouraged his fellow Democrats to join the Republicans on a bill to abolish all distinctions of race from state laws, the bill failed by 3 votes. He pushed to grant women the right to vote, which failed by even worse. And by the time the first session was up, Eugene decided he is not going to run for re-election because the job is too depressing.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, poor woke Bay.
Yeah, Eugene doesn't want to compromise. Eugene just wants to do the right thing the first time.
That's yeah.
And Congress is not the place to do that and keep your sanity.
Definitely not a state Congress in the 1880s.
Yeah, like, good on him for trying really, really hard to really chip away at racism and, hating women. But man, those years, that would have been tough to do in any state. Except Wyoming. I think Wyoming by that point had granted women the right to vote. I'll have to look into that. But
I think because there were 15 people and 8 of them were women.
Yeah. God damn it, Nancy. Why you got to be the tiebreaker on this? Why are you doing this? So things weren't that much better in the Brotherhood. On one hand, railroad accidents were heavily reducing numbers via death. And the promise to never go on strike either kept people from joining or was infuriating current members. So people were either dying or leaving, and then they were not getting new people to join.
Yeah, the live ones in particular were really fed up.
Which a reminder, Eugene at the time was against strikes because he viewed it as a violent action, and it's also illegal, and so that makes him wary to ever do it. But also the use of state militias to break strikes, resulting in multiple deaths, also leads him to believe that, he can't call for a strike and then maintain his own moral code if people die because of something he told them to do. So at the National Convention in 1885, Union members kicked out nearly all of the governing board and pushed the org to accept striking as an option. Eugene tried to resign, but the delegates unanimously refused to accept his resignation, which I didn't know you could do. They also ordered him to go to the convention for the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineers and informed them that the Brotherhood of Locomotive Firemen was no longer an insurance advocacy group, but a full-on labor organization ready for allyship. So instead, the deal with the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineers is Ray Ginger depicts them as stuck up and classist because it was a job that paid more, in their view required a lot more skill to do, were typically the bosses of almost everyone on the train except for the conductor. They just kind of viewed themselves as the betters of the train.
Yeah, a lot of engineers do.
So Eugene goes down to this convention of the locomotive engineers to offer allyship and to state that, hey, the firemen are different now and we should partner up. Instead, the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineers listens to Eugene and then votes that they will never accept membership in their union from someone who's ever been a member of the Brotherhood of Locomotive Firemen.
What?
Yep. Just in his face, say, fuck you, man.
Well, but what, can no one laterally move up within this industry?
Why would you want a fucking fireman to be an engineer on a train? That's crazy talk. I'll get my donkey to drive a car. How about that? How about ask a pill bug to load the fucking rail cars? Talking crazy.
At this point now, I'm just waiting for the ball to drop in Eugene Debs's villain origin story to emerge, where he's just like, fuck this, and goes John Wick on society because he can't take it anymore. And these people need to listen. Women should have rights. We should stop being absolute racist bigots to one another.
You know story structure really, really well.
Hey,
And I think you know Eugene decently at this point.
It's all, Dusty, we've been doing this for a while.
I know, right? Life has a fucking story arc no matter what, and it's kind of great that way. So Eugene, being insulted to his face, leaves this convention absolutely furious. But by the time he gets back to Terre Haute, he's developed a plan. If these individual occupation unions are going to create a hierarchy, then he would push to unify all railroad jobs under one singular union.
Yes.
And it would take a number of years to get started. But by 1889, Eugene was ready to unify the working men of the rail industry. On June 3rd, the Brotherhoods of Locomotive Firemen, Brakemen, and Switchmen met in Chicago, drew up a constitution, and officially founded what they called the Supreme Council of the United Orders of Railway Employees.
Yeah.
Scale of 1 to 10, where would you put that?
Optimus Prime. I would. It's okay.
It's a 5 on its best day.
It's wordy as hell. Like my vision has wandered off into the distance halfway through it.
It definitely reads as a compromise of 3 people who are used to being in charge having to settle on a name. Just like, we'll squeeze it all together. Fuck.
Yeah, it's the equivalent of those extremely long law firm names where it's like we just have to keep putting the names on because everyone's going to have an opinion.
Baron, Cullen, Franks, Fredericks, Washtenaw, Baron.
And Sons. Are we happy now?
No, the Sons have to have full names. There needs to be Esquires in there. So it's a shitty name, but it's a highly effective organization. Because one of the quickest ways that railroads were able to end strikes is they just kind of pick off these individual unions separately. And doing that, it makes the other unions more apt to kind of give in to their demands. If you can get the brakemen everything they want and then leave the strike, you could pretty much leave everyone out, and there's like a FOMO rush to try to get what you can get. But if everyone's together, as they say in crypto world, apes together strong.
Stop it. No.
So over and over, the United Federation stood up to the strong-arm tactics and mass firings and unfair contracts. And on the other end, came out victorious in getting people reinstated and got workers much better pay. And because of this, the Federation never had to call for an actual strike. All they had to do was threaten it.
A loophole for Eugene Debs.
Exactly. It's perfect for him. And this success led to other rail occupation unions joining. And these are all brotherhoods. The firemen, the brakemen, and the switchmen are soon joined by the brotherhoods of railway carmen, telegraphers, and the typically well-paid conductors. The only holdouts, and these would be holdouts for almost anything Eugene Debs ever did, were the Brotherhood of Railroad Engineers.
Wow. Well, may they never get a raise ever again.
They would give a bit of a conciliatory thing by revoking the rule that said no Brotherhood of Locomotive Firemen members could join their ranks.
Ugh, wow.
But, you can't do that to Debs' face and then get rid of it when he's not there. But despite this, Debs would keep pushing for the engineers to join his ranks. Now, from this paragraph, it would seem like everything was going well. And using a leftist space bell curve, things are going fucking great.
So what's the catch, Dusty?
Well, we have a couple. For one, Debs got some severe pushback on one of his key points, and that was allowing membership of more than just white men. The official thing that a lot of these brotherhoods had was that to be a member, your parents had to be white.
Oh.
Yeah, it was in the bylaws. You have to be born of white parents. And Eugene was trying to push against this, but a lot of the people who already had membership in these unions were against that idea. And the only way you can get members of the Southern unions involved in this stuff is to just let that go. So fuck. This ends up becoming a theme, and I don't like that this is where it really is, it's extraordinarily shitty that Eugene rolled over on this, but his ultimate goal is the federation of all these unions and kind of getting revenge on the Brotherhood of Engineers, but at what cost?
Right. And it's like he wasn't going to learn that in the Indiana Congress.
Right.
He was going to learn it later as a union member.
Well, and the point they tried to make that wasn't convincing to them is that we're creating a federation to unify all workers. And by that, I mean all workers. We also have to bring in Catholics, Irish, Black, Chinese. We have to bring in everyone who works on the railroad at once. Otherwise, we give a wedge for the railroad companies to work against us.
Yeah.
And to
you can get scabs.
Right. Right. But this is enough to convince people and ends up sticking with the Supreme Council for its time. So by 1891, it was looking like Debs was on the verge of victory. Multiple unions fell in line with the idea of a unified federation, so much so that Eugene announced that he would resign his position in the Brotherhood of Locomotive Firemen. All that was left was to get the Brotherhood of Engineers on board, and then it all fell apart.
No.
So, all right. So this was pages and pages and pages of high school bullshit drama. So one of the things that was really a big issue right now is that there were kind of like, as in most leftist spaces, there are splinter unions within these single occupancy unions.
Not this.
And two of them who did not like each other were the Brotherhood of Switchmen and the Brotherhood of Trainmen, essentially doing the same job, just different unions. One's aligned with Debs, one is not. So in Galena, Illinois, a member of the Brotherhood of Switchmen is fired by a member of the Brotherhood of Trainmen. The Switchmen viewed this as improper and demanded that the man be rehired. The Supreme Council looked into it, ended up finding a conspiracy of sorts with the Trainmen to try to get all the Switchmen fired from the Galena line. Instead, they flipped it around. They got the guy from the Switchmen reinstated, fired the guy who fired him, and then got a member of the Brotherhood of Switchmen put in that managerial role instead.
So pouring gasoline on a volatile situation.
100%. And it was one of those things that, like, it was pretty clear Eugene really wanted to ignore it. But if you ignore it, then you're pissing off the switchmen who are in your federation. If you don't ignore it, then you're pissing off the trainmen who you want to join your federation.
Oh, no.
So the two unions get into a massive grudge fight and leads to the Brotherhood of Trainmen being banned from Eugene's federation. And all the occupational unions took sides on this. And within a year, only two unions remained in the Federation. The Switchmen and the Firemen.
Damn it!
Yep. It's that fucking leftist bullshit, man. Fucking splinter groups ruin everything. Like, no one can agree long-term on anything.
After all that money he spent individually helping so many people.
Yeah, it's just like one pissy bit of office drama ruins everything. In Galena, Illinois, of all fucking places. And the upper middle class resort destination of Chicago.
Of 1891.
Yeah, well, and kind of today too. I know a lot of people.
Oh, really?
Like, yeah. It's like Galena is still very nice. Like you get an Airbnb on the Mississippi River. You go to a bookstore. You go to antique shops you can't afford.
Oh my God, I want to do this next weekend.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Galena is a nice little town, as far as I know. Never been. Want to go. So at the Supreme Council's annual meeting in Chicago in 1892, with only two unions showing up, they unanimously moved to end the Federation.
I hate this.
It's not good. It's not good.
The only thing I like about this is just I am always comforted hearing stories of history, not necessarily repeating, but rhyming to our modern day bullshit antics. Being like, okay, so this isn't just us.
Oh, no. And it's not even a con man trying to do this. It's just a man of genuine good heart trying to do what's best for everyone. And he's still getting fucked over by petty bullshit. So it didn't take long for the rail companies to take advantage of this. So in New York, a bill was passed setting the maximum workday to 10-hour shifts. However, the switchmen were still being scheduled for 12 to 14-hour shifts. 500 switchmen went on strike in Buffalo and requested aid from the governor to force the rail companies to follow the law. And the governor sent support in the form of a 6,000 strong state militia.
No.
The switchmen asked the other unions to come to their side because, hey, there's kind of a militia and this rhymes often with people getting killed, so please send folks. And representatives from most of the brotherhoods did come to Buffalo, and all of them, when they arrived, said, wish we could help you. Sorry, man.
This is so petty.
Right? Only Eugene had tried to get the other unions to call a strike along with them, but they all refused. The strike failed quickly thereafter, and 2 weeks later, Eugene Debs officially resigned from the Brotherhood of Locomotive Firemen.
Damn it!
So here's a quote from Eugene. They had repeatedly tried to get Eugene to stay on by refusing his resignation again. But finally, on the third time, he said, quote, "A life purpose of mine has been the Federation of Railroad Employees. To unify them into one great body is my object, but I don't believe it can be done on the present lines. Now the men are enrolled in classes or crafts for distinct departments. Class enrollment fosters class prejudices and class selfishness. And instead of affiliating with each other, there is a tendency to hold aloof from one another. With the present differences in organization, federation is impractical and impossible." Which I know he's using the term class to mean different jobs, but it works really, really well when you use class in the modern sense. So it took 2 days for the Brotherhood to finally accept Eugene's resignation, but they only did so after he agreed to stay on as editor of the Union magazine, and after he demanded that he would no longer have to deal with finances with the Union. He also requested that his pay never be more than $900 a year, and the Union members countered this with $3,000 a year.
That paycheck's a sieve anyway, so
It's true. That is true. They would end up settling on $1,000 a year.
oh my God, okay.
Yeah. And sure, Eugene wasn't completely free of the Union as he wished to be, but the deal that he struck was really a really good deal for him because he recognized that there was a huge amount of desperation in the Union to keep him on board, which means that he can use the magazine to write anything he wants and they won't fire him.
Yes.
So he decides what he's going to do is use the magazine to talk about nothing but Union Federation.
Yes.
And so he decides he's going to spend all of 1893 writing about just this topic. And by that, I mean he worked a few days each month on the magazine and then spent the rest of his personal time building his plan for the next stab at a federation, an organization called the American Railway Union. So the ARU was to have a hierarchy somewhat similar to the U.S. government. The American Railway Union was going to be like the federal government, and each different craft union would be their own state. Because Eugene recognized that, all trade unions have their own unique issues that other unions might scoff at or not understand. But if they're all treated as equal states, then all their problems will be treated equally as important. And kind of kill off that, class distinction.
Yeah, that engineer mentality.
It's a structure that he didn't invent on his own. It was actually something that had been implemented by miners in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho earlier in the year that had worked out, decently as far as, strikes go in the 19th century.
Right.
It succeeded in unifying all the jobs within mining. Oh, and sorry, I should have mentioned this earlier. When I said he'd spend all of 1893 working on his plan, by that I meant all of January and the first week and a half of February, because that's all the time it took for him to start things off and get the Union going. On February 9th, Eugene called a meeting at the Leland Hotel in Chicago, which is on the corner of Michigan and Jackson, right downtown on the Loop, and just kind of brought folks from the other unions who weren't the head of those unions, but were people that he worked with on the Supreme Council who he knew he could trust. And there were, it took 2 days, 4-hour sessions to really kind of hammer things out. And for them to agree, like, all right, we need to come back and talk about this in April. They come back in April. They agree to vote on leadership. Eugene is nominated to be the president of this new union. And in June, the American Railway Union held a convention to announce their official existence. None of the leaders from any of the current brotherhoods were invited to leadership, but anyone who was a member of those unions could also join the American Railway Union.
Yeah, come by if you're union curious and you hate the leader of your current union.
So after working so hard with the Supreme Council to try to make a federation and to see it fall apart in his hands, within 6 months he succeeded, and all he had to do was abandon every power-hungry motherfucker he met on the way. However, it does need to be said that Eugene once again gave up on convincing the individual unions to allow Black membership. Within a year, the ARU would nearly vote to remove the born of white parents rule to membership, but instead settled on a, quote, support and sympathy towards Black people starting their own unions. Like a 19th century thoughts and prayers.
Yeah, a separate but equal union.
Ugh, no, yeah. So the union's first fight would come 2 months later when the Great Northern Railway announced across-the-board wage cuts. The ARU called for a strike that ended up lasting 18 days. The Great Northern agreed to enter into arbitration, and a number of businessmen from Minneapolis, St. Paul were brought in to be arbiters. And very quickly, they found in favor of the workers, and the pay cuts were scrapped.
Holy cow.
So yeah, the very first strike they entered into, they won.
Boom, getting results.
But the union's biggest fight was right on the horizon. For that moment, we need to introduce Eugene's first nemesis, a guy by the name of George Pullman.
Pullman?
George Pullman.
Of the Pullman railway cars?
Oh, the very same.
Hey, okay.
So George Pullman has a very long history, but the important thing to note for this episode is that he invented the sleeping car, which on trains used to be like, everyone gets a bench, and if you're going a far distance, you learn to sleep while sitting up. Like, I don't know, on a plane.
It's kind of incredible that that took an invention. Like, I was just like, okay, like someone was just like, you're telling me no one's pulled this. Well, okay, I'm going to do it.
So I kind of understand it a little more when learning about what his cars kind of.
Okay.
So the need for a sleeping car opened up when the Transcontinental Railroad got finished. And so the Pullman car allowed people to sleep on an upper level of the passenger car and sit on a lower level. The thing is with these new cars is they were wider than the current cars that were being used, but they supplied such a needed utility that railway companies rebuilt station platforms to make them further away from the train tracks so the Pullman cars could actually fit in while coming into the station. So the main reason no one had done it before was that you really couldn't bet the train companies would allow for the extra size needed.
Right. And then meanwhile, like your train distances are going farther and farther and farther for any average passenger.
Yeah. I mean, genuinely, it was a very calculated risk that paid off incredibly for George Pullman.
All right.
So at this time, George had already started some factories for his luxury sleeping cars in Kentucky. He had a factory in St. Louis. But what he really wanted was, his own town, his own workers' utopia, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a company town. It's just a town where everyone who works for the company lives.
It's just convenient that way.
Right. And he's gonna make it great. And so George Pullman goes a number of miles south of Chicago, buys all this farmland, and decides that he is going to build the most beautiful workers' town that he possibly can. And of course, he's going to call it Pullman.
It's just convenient that way.
Look, it would be shameful to name it anything else.
I'm tired and I don't want to think of another name.
Why wouldn't we name it Pullman? It's the perfect last name. So workers who lived there were given the option of Queen Anne-style row houses. And these row houses were complete with plumbing, gas, a sewer system. There was a daily trash pickups. The streets were paved. All the tree lawns were watered regularly. And there were flowers and gardens along the streets as well. There were parks, a very stunning church that I think still exists today, a market that featured a dozen stalls that some consider to be the very first indoor shopping mall, and a 4-floor hotel. Visitors to the 1893 World Exhibition in Chicago stayed in Pullman and raved about how gorgeous the place was. And frankly, compared to the other company towns of the day, Pullman looked like a paradise. However, George Pullman did not offer these amenities without strings. So if you lived in Pullman, then you lived by George's rules. Residents were banned from starting their own independent newspapers. They were not allowed to call for public forums to discuss any issues, and workers were banned from drinking alcohol, which is really weird because that 4-floor hotel, the Hotel Florence, had a full bar, and George Pullman lived at the Hotel Florence, and that's just so fucking weird, huh? As one article put it, if George Pullman is hosting railroad company CEOs, of course they're going to want to drink. So you just give them a fancy place to drink.
Yeah, but the rest of you...
Yeah, the rest of you can't fucking come in here. I swear to God. On top of that, joining or starting a union was forbidden. And local elections were heavily influenced by the company. The company would tell people, hey, here's who you're going to vote for this time around. And if someone in town decided, I want to file to be a competitor, they typically got fired very quickly after they filed to run.
They disappeared.
Yeah. Put them in the sleeping car.
Oh, God.
But most notably, no one could buy property in Pullman because every single living space and building was owned by George Pullman, which leads to the major issue. Pullman charged rent.
Come on. I mean, am I shocked? No.
So the cheapest apartments went for about $4 a month, which in today's money is $136 a month, which sounds amazing. The most expensive were two-floor single-family homes, which went for $100 a month, or in today's money, about $3,400 a month. And it should be noted that while paying $136 for a studio sounds amazing, rents in Pullman were a bit higher than that in Chicago.
Wow.
Jane Addams of Chicago, who's renowned for her charity work and all of that, did a lot of looking into this at the time and found that across the board you could find cheaper places to live in Chicago than in Pullman.
Wow.
Now, it should be said that workers weren't required to live there. There were a number of towns that ended up, opening up around the outskirts of Pullman. But the people who lived in the company town typically got promoted faster, or they, got raises sooner. They got better work hours. If they needed something from the company, they were more likely to get it. So there were definitely incentives for being there. That said, company inspectors could enter any dwelling without warning, and if they found anything wrong, they could immediately evict the tenants. The Pullman Company would deduct rent directly from workers' paychecks and estimated a 6% increase in profits thanks to this.
Oh my God.
Oh, I also forgot, you have to pay for water and gas too.
Come on.
And George Pullman does own those utilities, so,
Oh, I just want to really pause and reflect how there were so many company towns across the country. And it's like, this is totally legal. And they were all run like that.
The one thing that Pullman didn't do compared to the other company towns is there was not like old-timey crypto script that everyone got paid in. They actually got paid in American dollars instead of company money. So there's at least that. But
yeah. It's so, I mean, just genuinely thinking about it is like, it is horrifying. And yet I'm sure there are even worse homeowners associations.
Maybe, very maybe. So the town did have a library, which we all know is notoriously free. However, in Pullman, to get a library card, if you're an adult, that costs $3 or 75% of a studio apartment.
Seriously.
And if you're a child, it was $1 a year.
The kids had to pay?
Well, I'm sure their parents did, but I mean, it's nice that it's cheaper than an adult. You get the children's discount.
And then, of course, it's like the kind of library you find in Florida at this time of like, just pick clean of anything interesting.
Yeah, it's every Airbnb library you've ever seen where it's like some of the older renditions of Chicken Soup for the Soul, or like Chicken Soup for the Teenage Soul, Chicken Soup for the Internet Soul.
A 2014 Lonely Planet's Guide to Chile.
Yes, a Tony Robbins book.
Yes, Girl Wash Your Face.
Fuck. Now, Una, can you guess the reason that the company gave for charging people for using the library?
Because it was Pullman's library, his own personal library.
That's the quiet part. The out loud reason was that it, quote, gave subscribers a sense of ownership.
Oh, I need to take a shower after that reason.
Fucking gross. It's so horrible. It's
God, the hypocrisy.
But if you want to hear the worst thing, George Pullman was like, we gotta still get more of a profit out of this town. So he directed the town's sewer to go to a plant, and then he used, I don't know, human sewage and turned it into fertilizer and sold that.
That actually doesn't I feel like that's shit that companies would do now, that feels like more of an equivalent in my mind of how most companies have a life insurance policy on their employees.
Yeah.
And so fucking dark, but it's also like, I mean, I guess.
Yeah.
You're making money off my death.
Like, I'm glad you're recycling our shit, but maybe that should make the library free?
Yeah, maybe we could grow a garden. Is that allowed? I don't know, Pullman.
If I poop enough, do I get a discount on my rent? Because I'll fucking do that, man. I'll eat fucking, I don't know, grain. What makes you poop? God, I'm forgetting fiber. That's the word. Yeah. Like, I'll eat a high fiber diet just for you, George.
Yeah.
Also, if you want to sell poop, just open up a bunch of coffee shops and bars, man. You'll get more than enough. Anyway, so the big question now is, how much were these people getting paid? On average, the pay was about $75 a month. So too low if you had a 2-floor family house and you were the only person working there. But it was really good if you were paying, for that studio that was only $4 a month. But we're not talking about deductions yet, because of that 75, $20 was removed for meals. meals. The company supplied meals, but you had to pay for them. There was also a $4 a month uniform fee, making the uniform just as valuable as a studio apartment, but a little more valuable than your library card. But that still meant that you got to take home, $51 so long as you didn't go to the library. And this is the time before income tax. So things were, you at least have that to
Ho,
take.
ho, ho.
But that's assuming that you got through the month without being fined while at work. Because George Pullman employed a network of spies to observe his employees. And if any of those spies found even the most minor of infractions, they were directed to report back and just, narc on everyone that they could. Employees had no ability to challenge these fines, and on average, workers paid about $6 a month in fines. In today's money, that is $215 a month.
Oh my God.
So, look, the town's not perfect.
I would rather take communism. I would rather remove the veil of money in this situation.
It's not great.
Let's cut the bullshit.
At least in communism, you get a potato. You're guaranteed shelter.
It's like technically I own my space because we all communally own my space, and I'm getting ratted on either way.
Yes. It's fuck. Compared to other company towns that existed at the time, it is better than most would get. And that is until the Panic of 1893. Now, I know we've talked about the Panic before, but I can't remember in what episode. And I can't really be bothered to look through them all to find out which one. Nope. So we're going to do a super Cliff's Notes on the topic. So the Panic of 1893 was a depression in the American economy caused by quite a few things all happening kind of at once. And these things include a wheat crop failure and a failed coup in Argentina, rich people hoarding precious metals around the world, a boom in silver mining that devalued silver, making those hoarded precious metals a lot less worth the money they were when they were bought, and the railroad industry overbuilding and causing the economic bubble to burst, and the Philadelphia and Reading Railroad going into receivership. All these things culminating at once caused a run on the banks, a credit crunch, and an international financial panic, which means for the people of Pullman, they now have three options. One, get laid off, which happened to a lot of people who were there. Get your per hour wages slashed by between 20 to 30%. There are some people who argue this amount. One of the people who was one of the higher ups at Pullman said it was never higher than 19%. There were some workers who said they saw their pay get cut by 75%. But 20 to 30 seems to be the most accepted. Or you switch from getting an hourly rate to a sort of piecemeal pay, where you get paid by the number of, I guess, widgets or whatever, of pieces of material that you build throughout the day. And technically, this would actually increase your hourly pay. However, your hours did get reduced because since, the economy's down and Pullman is building just luxury rail cars, the number of orders for them has gone down. So there's less cars to build. So those are your options. Yeah, go on. Yeah, which of those three are you going with?
Oh, God. You
either get laid off, you move on in a depression to try to find work. You get your pay cut by 30%, or you switch to a weird piecemeal system that is, questionable on what you're going to get at best.
I guess 30%.
Yeah.
I guess I take the cut, the devil I know versus the devil I don't.
Yeah, it'd probably work out better. I did leave one detail out, though, because, pay's going down. It's going down across the board. What are you going to do? But we got to keep rent the same, right? Right?
Or raise it. Like, that's a cash cow.
Well, because, rent's staying the same, but so is the price of water, gas, and all of the goods at the company store, which were already higher than the national average to begin with, are all staying the same price.
Wow, it feels exactly like my life right now.
Oh, yep. Hey, are we going to lower the prices after the pandemic? No.
Fuck you, that's what.
Great, cool. I'm glad paying $6 for half and half. This is wonderful. This isn't going to result in redacted. So by March of 1894, the people of Pullman had finally had enough, and the majority of the workers joined the American Railway Union. But Dusty, you're thinking, how? They're not working on the railroads. They're building cars. They're not operating the trains. How could they do this? Well, they used a bit of a loophole that George Pullman caused himself, because since George owned everything in town, he owned the few miles of railway that were in Pullman and a few miles that led into the town of Pullman. So technically, the Pullman Car Company is a railway company.
Cha-ching!
And that was more than enough for Eugene Debs to be like, all right, guys, come on in, join the union.
Oh, yeah. He's going to find a way.
So initially, the people of Pullman tried to negotiate directly with the company, specifically with the vice president of the Pullman Train Car Company, whose last name is Wilkes. And Wilkes is a fuck. He's just, I've never seen a picture of him, but I know he has a mustache. I know he has a beaver top hat. I know he's never paid less than $20 for a meal. So they go to him, they're like, hey, they send 50 people it wasn't the complaints department, but it was essentially a negotiation committee to be like, people are on the verge of dying, please help us. And so he just kind of stalled them. He was like, all right, tell me what's wrong. Well, that's all well and good, you should write it down and come back in 2 days. And then they came back in 2 days, like, well, I'm busy today, so I'll see you next week. And he stalled them enough that they were just like, fuck this. And on May 11th at noon, 3,000 workers quietly walked off the site and began their strike. And the company responded by laying off 10% of the strikers by the end of day.
Can't hurt me. I'm not working either way.
Excellent point. So Eugene visited Pullman 2 days later because the ARU actually didn't approve the strike ahead of time, which was kind of part and parcel. If you're going to go on strike, you have to get the governing union to approve it first. But he figured, things must be that dire if they're going to call for a strike without us giving the go ahead. He goes down to Pullman and he starts interviewing people, and it is infinitely worse than he thought it was. There was one story that a woman told him that she had to pay the company $60 because her father had just died. He had worked for the Pullman Company for 13 years and owed $60 in back rent that she was expected to pay.
Oh, this definitely came up in a past episode. I remember these horror stories.
Yeah. There was another person who was scheduled to get $9.07 for his paycheck, but was fined $9. And so he had 7 cents to pay for food for his family. There were people who were getting their pay cut just even without fines, who were working ridiculous hours but not getting pay that equaled those hours. In the winter, they noted that when the snow fell, it was black due to all the pollution.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a horrifying place to live. And so Eugene ends up leaving and saying, yeah, we got to support this strike. But not only are we going to support your strike, we're gonna up the ante. He called a convention of the ARU in Chicago and announced that not only would they be supporting the strike, but they were going to call for a boycott on any rail line that used Pullman's sleeping car. Because he figured the only way to get Pullman to really listen, because he wasn't getting a lot of orders at the time current, so the strike really wasn't going to affect him a ton. But if he fucked with the rail companies and caused them to lose money, more than likely they would put pressure on Pullman to change his mind and, make some improvements.
Yeah.
So the railroad companies replied to this by saying that they had no intention to stop using Pullman cars, predominantly because they had signed contracts with George Pullman that said that they had to use them for a number of years, because technically they were renting these cars.
Genius. Sick and genius.
And if they suddenly stopped using them, they would have to incur hefty fines.
Back.
Yeah. Despite that, on June 26th, the national boycott began, and within 4 days, 125,000 rail workers walked off the job across America. Now, this was mostly in the West, from Chicago on. This is really big in Montana and Sacramento mainly, and especially in Chicago. And so they went through the tactics of just refusing to operate the trains. Some people stood on the rail lines to ensure that trains couldn't go in or out. The only train that they really kind of would let through were mail trains, because blocking the mail is a federal offense. And so anytime a mail train was there,
Yeah, that's not a Pullman car, it's just the mail.
Right. So the rail companies responded to this with a multi-pronged attack of fuckery. So step one, hire as many strike breakers as you can. So some rail workers who had been on the losing end of industry union battles were people who signed on. There's one story of people who were in a union that had gone defunct in the 1870s. They were immediately scabs because in their mind, this other union that had succeeded and won had stolen their jobs. So they're just stealing their jobs.
Okay. You could also just join right. Whatever. Fine.
That the other group that they mostly found strikebreakers were black men, because the predominant fear was if the ARU grows stronger, then black men are just going to be pushed out of the industry entirely. Like they're not going to be able to find jobs anywhere. So if ARU is going to lose, get those jobs now.
Yeah. Yeah. And which is like just what Eugene Debs didn't want. Like this was his
Right.
whole point.
Right. Yes. He already said this to you. It could have stopped this. And then along with this, there's the other reliable option for the rail companies: state and or federal violence, because often when these strikes ensued, you call the state militia or federal troops and they get sent out to quell strikers' anger with bullets. The tactic had become so synonymous with striking by this point that the ARU actually forbade members from ever joining a state militia. Within a week of the strike, Illinois Governor John Peter Altgeld had already approved sending out militia to the city of Cairo. I think it's pronounced Cairo. Spelled Cairo, but I think
you're right. Cairo.
But luckily, violence didn't ensue on this occasion. The companies also made great use of the local paper, specifically the Chicago Tribune and the Chicago Herald. Both really sucked company cock during this entire event. The Tribune led with the headline of, quote, "Mob is in control," and gave Eugene the nickname of Dictator Debs.
Come on.
The Chicago Herald implored the railroads to do anything that they wanted for fear that labor agitators would just ruin the whole industry. We wouldn't have trains anymore if we let the unions win. Both papers ran with rumors that Eugene was profiting off of membership dues, that he was using the strike to profit even more, and that he actually only rode on Pullman cars when he traveled between Chicago and Pullman. In probably the wildest of editorials, the Tribune published one with the title of, quote, "Strike is now war," and began with a pair of fictitious quotes. Quote, "6 days shalt thou labor, Bible, not unless I say so, Debs." Which, first off, you're misquoting the Bible. God works for 6 days. We're not, I think the Bible's really, one of the key sticking points is none of us are God. So maybe we shouldn't work 6 days.
Yeah. We should work 7.
Oh my God, that'll show God. And also, if you knew Eugene Debs hated religion as much as he does, I think he'd love the start of this fucking editorial.
I think he'd have a good chuckle.
And finally, the rail companies made the choice to not just, get rid of the Pullman cars, but they started adding them to non-passenger trains, including mail delivery trains.
Yes!
And the idea was to force the ARU to block every single train, and the resulting inconvenience would lead the public to disapprove of the boycott, because they're not getting their mail. Stuff's not showing up. Deliveries are shot. It's, it's not an awful tactic. It's
these rabble rousers.
Yeah.
What you gonna do?
Yet despite the multi-pronged defense, Eugene felt that the strike and boycott could actually be successful. So long as the railroads were dealt with a large enough financial blow, they could then apply strong enough pressure to get George Pullman to the negotiation table. And it really might have worked, if not for a real gem of an asshole named Richard Olin. So Dick had been a state representative and lawyer in Boston, but he made his real mint as a lawyer for a multitude of rail companies. And in 1893, he was named U.S. Attorney General by President Grover Cleveland. When the Pullman strike began, President Cleveland was a bit distracted with trying to get a new tariff bill put through Congress, so he had Olney take point on the issue. As Ray Ginger states, quote, "Olney's attitude on the strike rested on 3 premises. 1, any national railroad strike is automatically illegal. 2, the causes of the strike in Pullman were not relevant to the legality of the boycott. And 3, the state and local officials could not be trusted to enforce the law." And for that last point, he pointed to 2 specific instances. One was at Governor Altgeld, who's really a very complicated and interesting dude. He did send the militia out multiple times to break strikes. And then on the other end, are you familiar with the Haymarket riot?
A little bit, but yeah, I'm aware of it and the broader strokes.
Right. So the Haymarket riot was a labor dispute here in Chicago. A lot of people went on strike, but during the strike, a bomb went off that killed a number of policemen, which resulted in about 8 or 9 people being arrested, and the police striking back with lethal force.
Mm-hmm.
So Governor Altgeld looked at the case that was used to indict the 8 or 9 people who were accused of the bombing, and he determined that they were not given a fair trial. And it's pretty commonly noted that they were not even close to where the bomb went off, and there was really no evidence they were ever near it. They were just like anarchists, and so it was easy to place the blame on them.
Mm-hmm.
And so a year after the bombing, Governor Altgeld pardoned them and released them from prison. And so this was a very huge sign to Olney that Governor Altgeld's not going to do the right thing. But also, the mayor of Chicago at the time, John Patrick Hopkins, had submitted a personal donation to the Permanent Workers Relief Fund. Hopkins owned a grocery store in town, so he donated a ton of flour and meat that ended up getting used within like 3 days in Pullman. But that donation was more than enough to make Olney think that he was aligned with the strike and, couldn't be relied on to really, I don't know, bust this issue.
God damn it.
And so this resulted in Olney really pushing hard to send federal troops to Chicago. But until Olney got his way, he pushed for local judges to file injunctions against ARU leadership based in Chicago. Two judges would follow through with this and state it was illegal for Debs or anyone else in ARU leadership to take part or aid in the boycott, which meant they couldn't use mail, written word, or their own voices to convince people to join the boycott. It was pretty much a universal gag order to not talk about it.
How is that legal?
A judge said it. And if they ended up ignoring this injunction, more than likely they were going to be thrown in jail. So Debs calls a meeting of the ARU, and after discussing the matter, they all chose to just ignore it and keep doing their business.
Hooray!
So Eugene knew that the second he violated this order, he and the ARU would end up in court. So ahead of time, he decides to hire the best expert lawyer that he possibly could, and one of the few 19th century attorneys that more than likely people today know about. He hired the current attorney for the Chicago and Northwestern Railroad, Clarence Darrow. If that name sounds familiar, it's because he was one of the lawyers during the Scopes Monkey trial. It was a trial held, I believe, in Kentucky when a teacher taught the theory of evolution to a class, was brought up on charges of blasphemy, and Clarence Darrow supported the teacher, while William Jennings Bryan supported not teaching evolution to anyone.
Right.
So this was years before the Scopes Monkey trial, but Clarence Darrow was already making a name for himself as being just kind of a eccentric weirdo, especially within the job that he had. He was a really good lawyer, and when the train company hired him, they expected a lawyer who was going to fight for them at all times, but instead hired a guy that was very pro-labor and went to a lot of socialist and radical meetings, but he was good at his job, so they didn't really want to fire him. So anyway, Eugene goes to Clarence, asks if he will be his lawyer, which is a really big ask because he's getting paid a lot through the railroad. And he was going to be working on a trial that would have been near impossible for him to win and borderline pro bono.
Yeah.
But Clarence takes the job and he quits the railroad.
Hell yeah.
So while this is going on, Michigan ends up joining the ranks of states that send out militias to various strikers. By the end of the strike, about 20 states send out militias. Further injunctions were used against strike leaders in other states, and a number of strikers ended up getting arrested. Probably one of the more egregious is one worker in Albuquerque was sentenced to jail for 15 days for refusing to shovel coal. The judge declared that his refusal to do so was a contempt of court.
This is some shitty lawmaking.
It's not great. It's
specious. Is that a word?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that it? Is that the word?
Yeah. On July 4th, Independence Day, the strike reached its boiling. Early in the morning, Eugene was awoke by the sound of bugles outside his hotel. And initially, he thought it was a parade, but when he looked out his window, he saw a mass of federal troops camped out on the shores of Lake Michigan.
That's awkward.
Richard Olney had finally convinced Grover Cleveland to send the U.S. Army and sent about 12,000 troops.
Oh my God. This is a peaceful strike too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or that's what they want you to think.
Okay.
Because just the day prior, Olney had received a telegram from 3 judges in Chicago stating that a serious act of violence had occurred in the city, and strikers had set fire to a building and derailed a train. A few problems with this, though. For one, that did happen. Some buildings did get set on fire and a train was derailed. However, it was in the suburb of Blue Island. And as we say here in Chicago, if you're in the suburbs, it's not Chicago.
There it is.
Second, the judges kind of made it sound like the derailment and burning happened that day. It happened a week prior. And finally, the judges, the tone that they used made it sound like the riot was ongoing and that the local cops couldn't do anything and the militia probably couldn't help. And the only cure would be sending federal troops to stop this crazy fucking riot. That was not happening. So Governor Altgeld would protest the use of federal troops, and Ginger states that he sent multiple long telegrams, which I don't even know what the Western Union fee is going to be on that. I've never seen a long telegram.
That it's an oxymoron to begin with.
Just so many sentences ending in stop.
Yeah. It's Stop.
So probably one of the coolest things that Governor Altgeld said in his first long telegram was that he'd been reading a lot of news about trains being stopped, and yeah, there were a lot of trains being stopped. Pretty much every train line from Chicago on west was being held up in some sort of way or off schedule. He noted that the newspapers often said it was because strikers were standing on the rail lines, and that was the entire reason that the schedules were so fucked up. But from his own personal investigation, it was because the train companies couldn't hire enough scabs to get the trains running. And he found it super weird that wasn't public knowledge. Why would that be? So after a bit of back and forth with Governor Altgeld claiming that Grover Cleveland had no right to send federal troops to a state that did not request them, Grover Cleveland very tersely said, "Yes, I do. Fuck off." I'm paraphrasing. A friend of Grover's would later state that the president viewed sending troops to Chicago during the strike to be the crowning achievement of his 2 non-consecutive terms.
That says more about Grover Cleveland.
So, along with sending the army of 12,000 people, the federal government kind of felt like they needed a little more oomph. So, the U.S. Marshals got involved and got approval to hire 5,000 deputy marshals for short term work. So, most of the people who were employed and against the strike couldn't really leave their jobs for full time contract work. So, the marshals were forced to hire anyone they could get.
Oh, no.
So you know what happens when you have angry people who hate unions and love violence and are given the opportunity to be paid a lot more, like I believe it was $250 a day to have a gun.
To have a gun intentionally.
And full right to use it whenever to stop an air quotes an ongoing riot in Chicago.
In Chicago. No, this feels like the more things change because it just sounds like every collar city suburb of Chicago every summer being like, it's fucking chaos in there and people are shooting. And if I could just get in and reorient ourselves. And meanwhile, all the Chicagoans are like, we are trying to just enjoy ourselves and you guys are psychotic. Please go away. Man.
I'm sorry 40 high schoolers took everything from an Apple store. We don't fucking care. It's fine, probably.
Like, Apple's not going to be hurting. Yeah, like, their bottom line is doing okay.
They're fucking great. Oh my God. And so, funny enough, violence within Chicago city limits didn't happen until after the troops and the deputy marshals were hired.
Until they brought it.
Right. Are you? Oh my God. So, in retaliation to the army showing up, strikers blocked trains and burned down a signal house. And the army responded to this by leading a bayonet charge into the strikers, which luckily didn't kill anyone, but injured a lot of folks. During this time, the deputy marshals are just kind of, I think the term's a cop riot. So whenever there's like a fire started, if someone like sets fire to a train car or a signal house, firemen will show up, and there were accounts deputy marshals showing up and cutting the fire hoses.
For Christ's sake.
Well, there were also accusations that the deputy marshals started the fires and took a bunch of stuff from the train cars before the fire spread.
Wow.
They would start fights. They would shoot people. They would.
Wow.
The first death in Pullman was the result of a deputy marshal shooting someone who was like 100 yards from the strike.
And now the family has to pay for that grave to Pullman.
In the Pullman. Oh my God. All right. So I wish I'd have wrote this down, but someone was asked what it's like to live in a Pullman city. And it's like, well, you know, you work at the Pullman company, you get a Pullman wage, living in a Pullman house, you buy Pullman food and Pullman clothes until the day you die, you get put in a Pullman coffin and you go to Pullman hell.
So grim.
It's so fucking dark. So by July 7th, with all this ensuing violence, newspapers made it seem like the entire city was burning to the fucking ground and that the strikers were, quote, thirsty for blood. And while these headlines were published when those sentiments were mostly hyperbole, later on the day on the 7th would be the very first civilian deaths. People in 2 different groups began to throw rocks and started taunting the soldiers. And the U.S. Army responded to this by opening fire. 4 people were killed and 40 were wounded. Now, according to Ginger, among the dead and wounded, none of them were members of the ARU. It was just supporters or rioters taking advantage of the situation. Or just people in the city being like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. I mean, that's classic Chicago.
Here's a rock. Please go. Eugene took every chance that he could to plead for peace during this and stated many times that any violence threatened the chance for a full-on rebellion or a civil war. By the end of the day, President Cleveland had declared martial law for the entire Chicagoland area and Hammond County, Indiana.
Jesus Christ.
On July 10th, Debs and leaders of the ARU were federally indicted for conspiracy to obstruct the mail by a grand jury, were arrested, and then released on about $10,000 bail.
Oof.
3 days later, with trains in the West now running back on schedule, Debs and the ARU ended the strike in complete defeat. 30 strikers had been killed nationally, 57 were wounded, about 700 had been arrested, and $80 million in property damage had been dealt. And that's in 1894 money.
Whoa.
So understandably, Eugene was furious.
Yeah, this is everything he never wanted.
So one of the biggest issues to this is that, the American Railway Union worked outside of the various brotherhoods that existed. And those brotherhoods were so fucking mad at Eugene for calling this strike that many of them refused to join, including the Brotherhood of Locomotive Firemen.
No, his boys.
Yeah, the new head of the union essentially told people not to get involved and would shit talk Eugene throughout the entire time, despite the fact that Eugene implored people who were firemen to join the Brotherhood and the American Railway Union at the same time. On top of that, Eugene had actually campaigned for Grover Cleveland 3 times.
Oh,
He had pushed for Grover Cleveland as the best candidate in the 1892 elections.
wow. And then he reached over and pulled the knife from his back.
Yeah. This was more than enough to convince Eugene to leave the Democratic Party and two-party politics for good.
Well,
yeah. So his mood probably wasn't helped that much when 1 week later, ARU leaders were arrested again for contempt of the Supreme Court, and this time they were refused bail. Eugene found himself locked up in Cook County Jail, which, jails typically aren't great, but at the time, Cook County Jail was fucking horrific. It was a giant stone building. None of the cells had windows. You spent about 20 hours of your day inside the cell, but for 4 hours a day, you got to walk in the hallways. But what the jail lacked in windows more than made up for in dog scaring rats.
Ah.
The reason I know there are dog scaring rats is Eugene kind of became friends with the sheriff of the jail, and the sheriff had brought his fox terrier in, and Eugene was like, hey, there are a lot of rats in here that are, I don't know, biting people and causing itchy open sores. Could I maybe borrow your dog to kill the rat that's in here? And the sheriff agreed, let the dog in, and when the dog saw the rat, it started whimpering and cowering, and they had to pull it out of the cell.
A terrier, no less. Like a breed designed to just go nuts on little rodents.
Yep. And so
good lord.
So it was not a good jail to begin with. Not to mention they're sleeping on straw. That straw is definitely moldy. It's just not a good place for anyone. So Eugene spends 8 days in that hellhole until he was released on bond with the expectation that he would return September 10th for his very first hearing. And he took this time to return to Terre Haute and rest up, which meant the second he sat down, became violently ill for 2 weeks straight and did not leave his bed.
Ugh.
More than likely, it was the first time he allowed his body to rest, and his body just shut the fuck down.
Yeah.
So once he was back to health, he prepared for the next chapter in his life, one that would lead him through the legal system and onto the national campaign trail for the first time in his life. But for that, we're going to have to wait for part 3. So Una, thoughts and feelings. Oh fuck, I forgot to catch you up on Kate. What Kate's up to during
what's Kate been doing?
Kate's not doing good. She's doing bad.
Oh no.
So Eugene, as you could tell, is gone. He's in Chicago during a lot of this time. And there's no TV, there's no radio, there's no internet. She's an introvert, doesn't know a lot of folks, so she's spending her days filling it however she can. According to the book, she has learned to clean every room in their house 3 times in one day, to the point that she becomes extraordinarily OCD.
Oh no.
During this time that she demands a nice house from Eugene, and he agrees to it and spends the money for it, designs it himself. It sounds like a real fuck of a house, like something you would see on the McMansion Hell website.
Yeah.
Like turrets, gables, rooms that don't make sense. And because he's not an engineer.
He's not an architect. Yeah.
Just, you're not good at everything, Gene. I'm sorry. But, he designs the house, they build it. And so she has this huge house where she's cleaning every room 3 times a day. She's sneakily saving money when Eugene's not looking and using it to buy jewelry. She has a gold watch. She has 2 diamond rings. She's just like hampering herself as best she can.
I want her to have some pampering after such a miserable upbringing, even if unfortunately she, like, rather than I also just expected her to like live absolutely slovenly
Right.
as rebellion to her upbringing.
It would be nice if he did. Also, during this time, that we have to talk about the time that Eugene was home, and I have to look up his best friend. So, whenever he does return to Terre Haute for brief periods of time, his best friend usually comes into town. A guy by the name of James Whitcomb Riley, who's known as the Hoosier Poet.
Oh my God.
He seems to be a really fun dude, but him and Eugene end up becoming just the best of friends.
Oh,
And, Kate always looks forward to him coming into town, but also dreading it because she knows at night they're gonna go out drinking.
yeah.
And she worries about Eugene when he's out drinking, just nonstop. And there's one night that James and Eugene go out drinking. In the middle of the night, a carriage rides up to the front of the house. Eugene hops out drunk, walks up to Kate, shakes her hand to let her know that he's okay, goes back to the carriage, and goes back to drinking.
No,
Yeah,
stay home with your wife.
right.
Stay home long enough to get her pregnant. My God.
Oh, and that's the other deal.
Oh no.
They end up finding out that Kate is infertile and cannot have children.
Oh,
Yeah,
heartbreaking.
so she is pretty much destined whenever Jean isn't home to just be alone.
Just,
To
yeah.
clean the house 3 times a day, to become very annoying with people if they leave any kind of mess around. It's really rough. And I really wanted every version of Eugene to be great, but he is not a good husband at all. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess we had to have something other than him not fighting hard enough to not be racist or have his organizations be racist.
Damn it.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
pour
a
one
real
out for
bummer.
Kate.
I know. Oh my God, she would have done so much better in the 21st century. Like
Yeah.
she would have rocked it in the 2010s. I don't know. She'd probably be a member of Boy Genius,
Yes.
the secret fourth member.
Yeah. Silent in the back, not playing any instrument.
Yeah, quietly really into cottagecore.
Yes.
Oh man, she would have ruled a number of things. But yeah, so that's the story thus far.
Wow.
Any other thoughts and feelings?
Man, I mean, I'm loving the Chicago centricness of this episode.
Yeah,
Just all the labor history.
I did really wonder why Revolution Brewing, which is based here in Chicago, has a beer named after Eugene. And it makes a
Yeah.
lot more sense, especially knowing
Right.
about the Pullman strike and how much time he spent here.
Right. Because yeah, as much as he was like a Terre Haute mama's boy,
Mhm.
yeah, this is definitely his second home.
Yeah. So I hope things at least don't get worse and that he doesn't like have a genuine villain origin story where he's just like, eugenics are the best now. And
Ah.
I'm really, really hoping, but no spoilers. I only know a few spoilers with him, and one is the whole reason I'm doing this episode now, but we'll get to it when we get to it.
Yay.
Anyway, I feel free to join us in 2 weeks when we
Yeah.
have part 3 about good old Gene.
And shout out to our sponsor this week of Galena, Illinois.
Galena, Illinois. Go there to have a romantic and affordable trip.
Yeah, just go for like a nice day trip.
Yeah,
maybe stay at a B&B.
Yeah, if you're rich, buy a hutch. And if you're not, go tubing on the Mississippi and figure out how to get back when it goes too fast and suddenly you're in Missouri.
And you do not want to be there.
No.
Yeah, and if with zero research, I'm assuming there's probably a pie shop and it's probably really good. You should go there.
God. You know what? I'm certain you're right. It's when I picture Galena, Illinois, I just picture a Midwest Stars Hollow.
I think you're not. I think that's spot on.
Yeah,
because that's also what I'm picturing. There's a gazebo in the middle of town.
Like
I just
definitely
assume
a Taylor Dosey running that pie shop, and he's insufferable to all hell. Anyway, thank you all for joining us this week, and we'll see you next time in Galena, Illinois. Gadfly is a production of Added Serotonin. Our episodes are edited by Brianna Valentine of Rem Alternus Productions. Our theme song is Sophomore Makeout by Silent Partner, and you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at GadflyPod.
Ready to level up your cosplay game? Check out the Geek Forge on Etsy. With a variety of props to give your photos that extra spark, you'll find just what you need. Hold magical fire in the palm of your hand, or take a potion to restore your mana. With a large variety of colors, you can choose your own magical flavor for your cosplay. Bring drama to your photo shoots with these vibrant props and more, all available at the Geek Forge. Are you ready to level up your cosplay?